I laugh because it's so outrageous, you're not going to believe me. But they're buying some dolls and they're removing the limbs. Okay. And they are sending them saying, can we go out on a limb? We'd love for you to sponsor our charity. Right. It's so cheeky.
But it's a way of breaking through.
Exactly. And if it fits your brand and it fits the audience, amazing. I mean, it's the kind of thing that gets people to say yes to having a conversation with you. But also the knock-on effect is you get someone who'll take a photo, post it on LinkedIn, and suddenly this is a marketing campaign for your business as well.
My name's Mike Lander, and you're listening to Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast, where we bring you actionable insights about sales RFPs, negotiations, and difficult procurement discussions from sales leaders, brand leaders, and procurement leaders. Please subscribe to get updates when new episodes are released. Steph, Tash, thanks ever so much for joining me on Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast. Great to have you as guests.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Mike.
So I'm really looking forward to this because you come at it, obviously you're in the sales space, you work with clients all the time, lots of sales experience. So we've got 3 broad topics that we're going to cover. But before we do that, both of you, who are you? What do you do? And what's your favourite song and why? And I'll pick on Tash first.
Excellent. This is easy. It gives Steph time to swat up on her notes and come up with a better answer than me. We're all about overdoing each other. I am Tash Rebuck. I am the owner of a sales company, and my sort of whole ethos is around doing sales in a better way and it not having to be such a dirty word or something that people find to be an activity that they hate. The word hate is thrown around a lot.
Yep.
My career has always been in B2B sales, and it is all I really know in life. I don't think I have a personality outside of it at this point, but I've done everything from making bespoke editions of Monopoly boards to selling really complex logistics SaaS solutions to working in the volunteering and charity space. And now, alongside co-hosting the amazing S-Word podcast with Steph, I advise startups and pretty well-established businesses that have just never had to do sales before on how to do it right. And that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Perfect. What was your favourite song, Tash?
My favourite song, I'm going to say right now, it's the one that I listen to a lot. It is called Magnet by a singer called Abel Hart. I'm not very into the woo-woo world of things, but apparently there is a frequency that helps if you are manifesting. And he makes his songs along that frequency. And this particular one is just about being a magnet for good things, money, relationships, all of that stuff. And you know what? It's a really good song and it's a good vibe. And sometimes that's just what you need in life.
It is. Very good indeed. Perfect. So, Steph.
Jumping off from Tash's great intro there. So I am all about the woo-woo. I love manifesting. So I'm definitely going to tune into that song straight after this. There is science behind it because our brain waves are in like theta mode. And
Steph's
then
skiing off piste. She's going off piste already. My word. We haven't even started, listeners.
Can you imagine what our show is like? Outside of being a manifester and, again, as Tash mentioned, a co-host of our show together called The S-Word, I have been living, eating, breathing the world of entrepreneurship for the past kind of more than decade at this point, including, of course, running my own business. What I'm doing now is extrapolating all the experiences and insights from the world of entrepreneurship, including working with 100 clients at my last agency and now having interviewed over 100 entrepreneurs on my other show. I am now kind of applying that to the world of corporate innovation, in particular as a public speaker. And my signature topic is all around hacking luck. So research has actually proven that between talent, effort, and luck, it is indeed luck that has the biggest bearing on our success or failure. So this talk is all about how do we actually...
There's a whole separate topic there as a
separate
podcast.
Topic.
Oh, my word.
I won't ski off piste too far on that one.
No, we're not going into the soft snow on that one, I don't think.
I'll leave it there. I'll leave you hanging and intrigued. If you want to hear more, then you can get in touch.
Exactly.
My favourite song is Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang. And the reason for it is because I love 70s funk, but also it is my party trick to rap the full 15-minute version of that song.
Wow.
Is that how you get people to leave the party?
We're definitely not testing it on the show. That's for sure. Anyway, thank you for that. Let's move on to the first question. So, the resurgence of traditional outreach. So let's start with Tash, because you had a few views on this. And bizarrely, coincidentally, I met someone who's built a SaaS tech platform who basically sends out exactly this. They send out physical gifts on behalf of clients B2B. But this platform's big, like really big. I was really surprised. But he said, yeah, it's absolutely now definitely front and center. So what's your experience of that, Tash?
It's been an interesting topic because I've been doing lead generation for over 12 years. So I've really seen the changes. When I started, I was with a Rolodex of business cards and a phone attached to a desk. That's how we got meetings. And I've seen every introduction of AI tool, automation, email, LinkedIn, all of it. And it's been really fascinating seeing how kind of the success of each one destroys itself. And as time goes on, the things that we used to do become really popular. So like cold calling is now working again because the people who stopped picking up the phone now aren't responding to their emails. And one thing that we used to do back in the day that was always really interesting was this idea of gifting. And it's back because, again, we don't want to deal with our email. We don't want to deal with our LinkedIn. However, the rules around gifting has also changed as well. So yes, you do get more responses from it. I mean, I think on average, the response to any kind of cold outreach, actual positive response is around 1 to 5% if you're lucky.
If you're really lucky. And I think for certain mediums now, we're pretty sure that it's well below 1%, like cold email outreach, mass personalization at scale using AI, the numbers have dropped through the floor.
Oh yeah, that's 0 to 1. But with these package send outs, and this is from the last few that I've done with clients, you're looking at over a 20% response rate and a 6 to 10% meeting rate, which is just unheard of. But it's a lot of effort. It costs quite a bit of money. And it really works if you have enterprise clients and you have a relatively hefty value on your deals as well.
Yes. So what's the kind of meeting connect cost? If you looked at the total cost of running a campaign, what would the average meeting connect cost be?
I can actually probably work that out pretty easily if I just went about on an average of what my clients, this isn't specifically my clients, there are a lot of companies that will have things like that. So I would say on average, my clients look at spending between £400 to £600 to book a meeting with an enterprise. But we're talking like Doc Martens, Nike, City Sprint, Addison Lee, like really, really big companies.
So you've got to have a value proposition that's over 50K-ish to say, yeah, not all those meetings will convert to something, but you're forming a connection. And there's obviously some risk in those as well. So at £500 a meeting, that's probably, if you've got a higher value offer, a pretty good return.
Absolutely. And especially if that client stays on and the proposition that you have is an ongoing one. And a lot of these systems, they're massive internal changes. And so you're not losing that client after you get them unless you do an abysmal job of looking after them.
Exactly. The LTV is high.
Exactly.
What are some examples, Tash? Just give me a couple of examples of things that you've done that have worked.
I worked with a stock management tool, so all about the stock that you have in your store. And what we did was send basically toy shopping baskets. And in it was a handwritten note that said, nothing worse than leaving a store with an empty basket. How about the feeling of your customers leaving with empty baskets because your stocks aren't up to date?
So you're stock out.
Exactly. Then you also have the slightly sillier out there ideas. So one charity that I work with, they are an amputee organization, and they're putting together a campaign at the moment where they are sending out lots of, I laugh because it's so outrageous, you're not going to believe me, but they're buying some dolls and they're removing the limbs. Okay. And they are sending them saying, can we go out on a limb? We'd love for you to sponsor our charity. Right. It's so cheeky.
But it's a way of breaking through.
Exactly. And if it fits your brand and it fits the audience, amazing. I mean, it's the kind of thing that gets people to say yes to having a conversation with you, but also the knock-on effect is You get someone who'll take a photo, post it on LinkedIn, and suddenly this is a marketing campaign for your business as well.
So I was going to say the next follow-up question was, what's the call to action? So I received something in the post, something physical. What's the CTA? What's the ask?
Always to ask for a meeting. Usually I like to put like a QR code that they can just scan and it's in the diary, easy. But this is the thing with any kind of sales outreach, and it ties in with the resurgence of old techniques. You send the package, it says book a meeting, but the real way you get the meetings is a few days later, you do a cold call.
Right.
Did you get a weird delivery this week? Yes, you did. Amazing. Let's have a chat. And then you follow up on LinkedIn, and then you send an email sequence. So you're actually using 4 different kinds of outreach. Some we've been doing forever, some a little bit more modern, but all together, you get a really, really good response.
I'll come to you in a second, Steph. I just want to explore something. I've had quite a lot of salespeople recently talking about cold outbound and the problem with mobiles. So the problem is, these are our kind of personal devices. These mobiles, I've had this number for 25 years. And I carry it with me when I move from organization to organization when I was in the employed world. The problem is, people work at home and it's a personal device. So cold calling rates, response rates, pickup rates have gone through the floor because it's like, why are you calling me on my personal phone? Whereas in the office, in the old days, you'd hit the main reception, they'd patch you through, and a physical phone on the desk you would pick up. Just talk to me about that, about why do you think rates might be increasing on cold calling?
It's funny because I actually think I listened to you talked about this recently around like lazy sales, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was listening to that. And yeah, it is interesting because the rates have gone down. Less people will pick up. However, if you do manage to speak to someone and you're halfway good at cold calling, that is a conversation you'll have because that person is aware that chances are they're picking up a cold call at that moment, but they're doing it anyway. And so it's still low, and it is definitely lower than it used to be. If I would sit and cold call 50 people, I knew I was booking 3 or 4 meetings, maybe even more back in the day. Now, if I call 100 people and I book 1 or 2 meetings, I'm very pleased. But again, if I were to email 100 people, if I'm lucky, getting 1 response. Again, it's a salesperson thing. Do you have the energy and the effort to make all those calls? Yes, you might only get a 0.5% increase in meeting rates, but is that 0.5% rate worth investing into?
The good thing also on this is that I'm at episode, 125 or something now. If I look across all of the episodes and look at the themes across all of them, you can see the data. It becomes very clear. The cold outreach and the selling of cold outreach within 8 to 10 weeks, that's not dead. Nothing's ever dead. But the response rates and the effort and the return is dramatically reduced. So you have to find a way of connecting with people. Within B2B, we're looking at now, we think, between a 9 to 18 month sales cycle. So you're trying to work out, how do I build a connection with someone? So Steph, on that connection piece, building meaningful connections with prospects, what are your thoughts? And also on what Tash said about the physical side of sending out physical product.
So there's a couple of things. Obviously, we've already touched on the fact that this cuts through the noise. We've got all these automations, all these tech tools. We've got AI now that all they're really doing is just creating more noise in an already noisy space. And so, yeah, you've got that cutting through. But as humans, we really do appreciate when someone has put in that effort. And actually, it's a psychological phenomenon called the input bias. So when someone has put in this effort and it's very obvious, we're just inherently going to kind of respect that and be more grateful. I think adding to this, and I think this is a perfect moment to segue over to me, because maybe this is where the branding and marketing piece kind of comes into the conversation, because really that's acting as the lubricant to the sales process, where we're already creating that awareness, that familiarity, and of course that trust. If we've already heard of a brand and then we receive a package that's turned up at our office, we're so much more likely to take the next steps, to take the cold call that we receive afterwards, and it just kind of helps speed up that whole process. The problem is then when you get into the conversation of attribution, and when you've got numbers driven, like CFOs turned CEOs running the business, the problem is you can't always attach the data to it. And I know that's not good enough when you're trying to kind of justify your budgets, but really what we've got to look at is the successful case studies of the world's most successful brands.
That leads us nicely into, Steph, talk to me about the problem with the lack of integration and the lack of alignment between sales and marketing. Because again, I've had a whole load of clients I'm talking to about this. I've had a whole load of podcast guests talk about this. I don't think it's changed for 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
But is it getting worse? And if so, what should we be doing about it?
I think it's getting worse with particular types of companies at specific stages in their growth journey, because I know this is going to sound obvious, but you need all teams pulling their weight in the same direction. And when I've run workshops on this before, there's actually a concept that has really resonated. It's been very, very surprising how much it's resonated with all the attendees and how much they keep talking about it afterwards, which is the idea of the North Star metric. And it's one single metric to rule them all. And it's a really tangible, practical way to get everyone on the same page. I can put maybe a link if you want to read into it a little bit more, but that's essentially what it is. A key characteristic of a North Star metric is actually that it's not revenue, because of course, every single business wants to drive revenue.
Exactly.
It's a leading indicator towards what's adding value in a customer journey for users who already love you. So a forcing question to help any listeners decide their own North Star metric is, how would customers naturally behave if they already loved you, if they couldn't live without your product? What would they already be doing? And that helps guide you towards a North Star metric that helps unite all different teams beyond just sales and marketing. Another quick thing I'll mention is I was actually on a panel where this was a really interesting, heated debate across sales professionals, marketing panelists. And we actually had a fantastic question from the audience, which was, okay, all fine and well, and like logically all of this makes sense. But when it comes down to the brass and tacks and the remuneration, what do we do there? Because of course, if you've got the salespeople on the front line that are out there hunting, closing these deals, they're very often, commission-based, they get a bonus depending on their performance. Where does that leave the marketing team when we're all supposed to be pulling our weight in the same direction and all putting this effort towards achieving the same goals? This loops back into the problem of attribution. And one of my favorite quotes, especially in marketing, is not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted, right? This is also the problem. It goes back to what's the commitment at the leadership level to building a strong brand? What's the understanding and empathy around brand building, around marketing, and the understanding that it drives the cells of success, even when it's not always visible? I do completely understand, being a business owner myself as well, that's not always enough, right? Like if I had a team member of mine be like, so we need to do this campaign, or we're going to send out all these fun packages and it's going to cost however much, I'd obviously want to know the ROI.
Exactly.
And so I think, maybe you're coming on to this next as well, but I think when you then sort of put in the long lead cycles, I've had a lot of conversations on this as well. If you've got customer conversion life cycles taking between 12, 18 months or even longer, then that's where that commitment really is put to the test for you to say, okay, we need to treat it as a time box experiment and say, we are going to invest this much. We are going to go for it. We are going to commit to it. But then by this point, if we're not seeing the expected returns, and this is the beauty of proper design experimentation and outlining upfront, what does success look like and what are those kill switch moments when we want to pull the plug, then when you reach that point, you can assess things objectively.
Many, many years ago, I was an engineer. We'd have this thing called hysteresis. Hysteresis is when I pull a lever, something happens on the output. Hysteresis is you shorten the amount of time between pulling the lever and the output occurring. In sales and marketing, that hysteresis, that's now 12 to 18 months. I do something today, I spend 50K. That ROI might not turn up for 12 to 18 months. And I don't know. And that's the scary thing. How do I know as a 20, 30 million pound revenue supplier? How do I know my investment's going to work? And that's absolutely a common problem I have across all clients, conversations I have. I know if I stop marketing, it's a disaster. It used to be, well, if it's advertising, which bit's working, we're not sure, we'll carry on. Now it's across all channels, even down to Tash, the emails. It's like, yeah, the open rate, you can't rely on the open rate now because obviously the email servers are saying, I've opened all of them. So it's like, well, that doesn't help me. But if someone genuinely opens the email, but doesn't click through on the CTA link, but it's raised something in their minds about your brand, is that relevant? If they didn't receive the email, would they know about you? I think it's really hard to tell now. I think attribution is a problem. So just talk, Tash, about when you're in the net new growth. So you're trying to find net new clients, which is the age-old problem that every single sales organization has. And roughly, I reckon 20% of revenue in a year is net new and 80% normally is pulled through from last year or last year's relationships. Across all channels, if you were given the challenge of, I need to acquire 10 new clients this year, average order value 50K in year one. So I've got a 500K go get, and you've got maybe a 50 to 100K budget. Where would you start placing your investments? I won't call them bets because they're investments. Where do you think you'd start to go? It's B2B. What would your kind of top of thinking be about where you start to place those investments?
I think I have my answer, not necessarily the right answer.
That's all that counts, Tash. It's your experience. All that counts is whatever your experience is relevant because it's your experience.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I will say, I do think everything you do in sales is a gamble because you can do everything right. You can send the perfect message at the perfect time to the perfect person, and they have a cold or they're in a bad mood, so they don't respond to you. Tough. Doesn't matter. So yeah, I do agree with that. So if I had that kind of budget, which I will say is often more than most people have to do exactly what you said with zero budget. What I would do is I would create one sales process, one outreach process that uses multiple different forms of outreach. Because only by doing that can I see where we're going to get the most responses. Because where we are right now, everything still kind of works, but at a much, much lower rate.
Yes.
Actually, I take that back. Email doesn't work anymore, especially right now. I would never start an email outreach campaign right now. I just wouldn't.
Interesting.
At this exact moment, I wouldn't. Maybe in a couple of months, it will calm down again.
But also, like you, I wouldn't do LinkedIn direct messaging outbound cold at the moment either, because I'm hearing a lot of people on the buy side going, I'm deleting all of them. Because even mass personalization, they're going, I think it's AI, so I'm not going to respond.
Yes.
It's a real problem.
Yeah, and then this is the issue with speaking to any salesperson is you always have different answers as well. Because last week I booked 2 enterprise meetings for one of my clients in our second week of doing outreach through LinkedIn. That was it. Sent them a message on LinkedIn.
Right. And it worked for you.
There was 30 people in my list, connected with them all. 4 people responded, 2 said yes to a meeting. Those are stats that you love to see.
Absolutely.
But also, if they hadn't, the people who haven't, and this sort of ties in with the answer I'm giving you, is the first thing I did was create a very, very big list of my ideal client profile in one specific silo of a niche, exactly what that individual group of people need and want from this product. I then reached out on LinkedIn. And then after that, I'm going to be putting them into an email sequence just in case, because you never know, maybe they've missed it. But then I'm going to be cold calling them, and we're also inviting them to a webinar. So we've put together a whole range of things, and we have people saying yes immediately to the LinkedIn messages. Those who don't may respond to the email. They then might attend the webinar, and then they're getting a cold call from me at the end. That is really what I recommend to anyone who's having to lead gen.
Yep. So multi-channel with nurture sequences. And I was talking to an SDR a few weeks ago. In fact, no, it was a guy that ran a big SDR team. We were just talking about the role of SDRs are no longer to make meetings. The role of SDRs is to make a connection and say, would you be part of our ecosystem? Would you be willing to just accept things from us that are marketing campaigns, that are sequences that are relevant to you and your needs? Would that be okay? Because asking for a meeting now, the guy that ran a big SDR team, 50 odd people, was saying the meeting connection rate has just gone again through the floor because buyers just want actually to make a connection. Happy that you know who I am, happy to be invited to things, but I'll do my own research, thanks.
But also, I think people have lost the art of lead generation as well. I've met a lot of people who have come from SDR roles and we place them in a company because my company, we basically do all the stuff ahead of sales does and then we help you hire someone middle ground. And we'll have these SDRs that have been, in theory, doing a wonderful job. You put them in place and they go, oh, without a very, very cleared out process for me where everything is scripted, I actually have no idea what I'm doing. And that's unacceptable for what your role is.
And a big tech stack with thousands of contacts. And all I have to do is hit send and use the auto dialer and read a script. It's not going to work.
Exactly. That's the big gap at the moment. It's not that we can't book meetings because I do it for my clients and I see those meetings coming in steadily. It's about how we're doing it. And I think that quality is continuing to drop, which is great for all of us who will make a really, really big effort to do high quality outreach. But yeah, it does infuriate the customer base because you're just being peddled rubbish all the time.
Exactly right. AI slop, as I think we're calling it now.
Exactly.
In summary, Tash, a couple of things from you, and Steph, one thing from you. Tash, what are your 2 takeaways from this? If you were listening to the show and you had a sales target to hit and it's from net new customers and you're being asked to do, obviously, outreach to do that, what are the couple of things that you would think about trying?
The first thing I do is be very honest with myself, and I'd look at what I'm doing and go, have I made any changes or have I tried anything new in over a year? The reality is most people listening will go, no, I haven't. I just hope it'll keep working, sunken cost fallacy. So the main thing I take away is be very honest with what you're doing and try something new. And also, and I haven't actually mentioned this, but it does also come down to volume. But I suppose this ties in with what Steph was saying. It's about the amount of effort that you make. So diversify, try new things, and try a lot of it.
Yep. And Steph, question to you around aligning sales and marketing. If you were sat again listening to the show and you were the CMO and sales aren't hitting their targets and it's all getting quite fraught, what would you do to make the alignment better and to share the pain between sales and marketing?
I would master the skill of persuasion. I've trained a lot of marketeers, a lot of very senior marketeers, and I've come in with a little bit of that imposter syndrome because these are very senior, experienced people. And I've actually realized you don't need another course. You don't need another training program. Yeah, okay, the worlds of both sales and marketing are constantly evolving and there's always new tools and all these different things going on. But really what you actually need to move the needle is the art of persuasion. And I mean that internally with your boss. If that's your CEO or the founder of the company, that's actually what you need to do. You need to kind of see what you can do internally to get that buy-in, to get that commitment, because it has to come from the top to unite all the teams. And again, that commitment is key, really being able to stomach not only the investment, because you do have a point of critical mass. You can't kind of like toe dip in here and there. You need to commit to a chunky enough amount for enough time, which to your earlier point, Mike, is a lot easier said than done. But whether you're leveraging FOMO with competitors, whether you're looking at the success case studies of other brands ahead of you who you look up to, or indeed if you've got VCs or other investors that are breathing down your neck and they want to see those results, this is what needs to happen. So pick your poison, but I would work more on the internal kind of dynamics and that persuasion to get what we need to.
Perfect. Steph, Tash, it's been amazing. Thanks ever so much for joining me. I love these shows because, as I say, over 100 or so plus episodes, the themes are very common. And I like your point, Tash, about try something new. It's the mark of madness and a fool that keeps repeating the same things and getting the same results. Where's the harm in trying something new? You can't go backwards. You can just learn something.
The mark of madness and a head of sales.
Exactly. Correct. Tash, Steph, it's been great talking to you. Where can people find out more about both of you? Tash?
They can find me on LinkedIn, always an easy one, Tash Rebuck, or you can visit my website, trsalesconsultancy.co.uk.
Brilliant. And Steph?
LinkedIn as well. Thankfully, there is only one Stephanie Melodia in the world. So type in my name. I should be the only result. And please, after you've listened and subscribed to the B2B Sales Podcast, do check out our new show, The S Word.
Perfect. Very good indeed. Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Steph. Thanks, Tash. Thanks for listening to Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast series with your host, Mike Lander. Please subscribe so that you'll catch all the next episodes.